Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose, and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hi Jason, how are you today?
Yeah, very well. How are you feeling?
I'm good too, thank you. So we're going to talk about arrogance today, aren't we?
Yeah, we are going to talk about arrogance. So it's that thing that we do that we are really scared of not knowing the answer to things. Mm-hmm. Or we've got a whole lot of weight of experience that we believe that we're the master of everyone else's destiny. Or we love putting other people down, so it makes us feel good inside. Mm-hmm. So this is pretty common with what people do in general, so this is not necessarily a new thing from an academy perspective. The thing I want to hand to you guys is understanding that arrogant people have a lot of pain. They're not necessarily bad people, they've just got a lot of pain that they're suffering. Mm-hmm. On the inside. And so they put an amazing guard over the top of themselves to say, hey, I've done this thing, I'm better, I've got it covered. And a lot of people who have really, really low level self-esteem, and they make it in quotes, mm-hmm. they're terrified of going back to what they were. Mm-hmm. So it's a real challenge for people who are arrogant. And I'm not saying that you should accept and get bullied by them, because a lot of them quite often bullies are narcissistic in the way that they approach. They're not. They're struggling inside. They might have really high anxiety. There's all sorts of things that are going on, and they're probably the most sensitive people in the world, but they just don't know how to show it and expose it. They're terrified, essentially. Mm-hmm. Of actually exposing who they are. So they put this big broad brush, I'm the one, I've got it covered. I remember meeting a guy a couple of years ago who was a multi-millionaire, and he talked about his life, how he was bullied at school and picked on, and then he made it in quotes. And he didn't realise, or maybe he did realise, that he was just picking on everybody after that. So he started going to town on people and putting them in their place. Anyone who challenged him in any sort of way, and he was a very, very smart man, he would just put them in their place and make them look ridiculous in front of everyone and shame them. So he basically was giving what he received from childhood. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people who make it, they've got one or two things that they can do. So imagine what it would be like having people tell you how great you are all the time. And you just constantly hear this over and over and over again. What's it going to do to your ego, Philia?
Oh, push it up.
Yeah.
At some stage.
Yeah, it's going to push it up, and you're going to believe in all the feedback that's positive, and the arrogant and the fear of actually losing that to unworthiness will make sure that you're really hearing that feedback. If someone else comes along and challenges that status quo, you will fight them to the death to actually get them out of your way. And I've met lots of people. I remember meeting this guy in 2004 when I was doing healing work, and he got almost sued by a lady simply because she had all these rules and regulations, and he was just a guy who wanted to promote his business, and this particular person said, go and see this person, he's amazing. So he put it on his website, and the next moment he had litigators at his on the phone saying, we're going to sue you if you don't take this off. Now, he was growing his business and starting getting some recognition, and his business completely collapsed because he just completely lost confidence in what he could do simply because an arrogant person came in and told him he's not allowed to do something. He was very, very innocent. He wasn't taking anything away from this person either. It was just the way in which this person approached. And I heard many stories about this particular person, and this is what can happen when people reach, in quotes, stardom or a high level of influence in the world. Is, well, what do you do when power comes? And arrogance is very, very powerful in its nature, and it loves to actually feel that power over others. So can you understand why arrogant people want to stay arrogant?
Oh, definitely.
Because it's powerful, and we all want to feel powerful, guys. We all do. So I want to give you some advice, especially for people who are, quite experienced, or they're gaining experience in whatever it is that they do. You've got to check your arrogant detector. The number of times that I've seen people who have been learning from me, and then they think they're all got it covered, and then I see the arrogance pop in. And what I talk about this is from like a karate perspective. Blue belt, brown belt, green belt are the typical ones where you're going to end up becoming arrogant, not when you're a black belt, hopefully. Right? It's when you've learnt some stuff and you think you know it all. So the number of times that Anya and I, and a lot of Academy members now who have worked through the Academy, they will look at someone and I will say, hey, you need to start looking after yourself. And they answer with, I know that, Jason. Tell me something new. And I'm like, that's a classic arrogant statement, because, and then I respond to them and say, well, where is the proof that you actually know that? Because you're not living that truth. You're not healthy. You're not doing... But why am I not healthy, Jason? Well, it's because you're eating stuff that's not healthy, right? And then we work on the patterns that are sitting underneath that. But the consistency of people saying, I know, when they actually are not living proof of the knowing, is sheer arrogance. So a lot of people in this world, especially in personal development, are gathering information. And there's so much that you can get in this world right now. You can gather so much information. There's a very big difference between living that information and actually knowing the information offhand.
And also just different information, contradicting information, and then different perspectives on things. And a lot of the time what I see is like people don't want to hear the other perspective. So they're just like, this is the only way, and whatever you say is all wrong.
That's right. And look, one of the things that's really important is to understand other people's opinions and where they're coming from. And I'm not saying believe in them, I'm just saying understand. The moment you actually call someone else out as, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing this, it's like what's happening right now in the world. All of the things that we do, what is it that's real? People are arguing about what's right and what's wrong, and who's right and who's wrong. Who's made that decision up? Pain has. And if we're not willing to see the other side and the other side's perspective, we're gonna keep becoming arrogantly belief constrained. We need to learn actually how other people's opinions are, rather than actually looking at them saying they're wrong, because we're frightened of what that could be if they were in some way right. So I think we need to really gain a little bit more of an understanding. I like finding out why people think the way that they do, rather than actually looking at someone saying something and the first thing I do, and which a lot of people do, could be to go, nah, that's not part of my world, so they're wrong. It's very, very arrogant to be corely focused on what someone is saying and not giving them a chance to actually voice something, because you might get this amazing golden nugget that you miss out on because you're arrogantly got your earmuffs on. So I think it's really important, guys, that if you want to spend time with arrogance, or you spend time with arrogant people, they're going to struggle listening. It's going to be hard to crack the surface. You've also got to catch your own arrogance. We all have it. Not one of us doesn't. We'll get into our core righteousness and we'll say, this is it, and they're wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
And what do you think we should do if we do catch ourselves doing that?
we need to backtrack and have a little bit of a reflect on what it is that we are truly believing in. Is it really real, or are we stuck in a pain circumstance that we can't see?
Mm-hmm.
We're all arrogant, guys, in some way, shape or form. You've got a constructed belief inside of you. I know you do. We all do. I do. And so what I do is I go and say, okay, where is this coming from? Where's the pain? And why do I have to be right here?
Mm-hmm.
And then I backtrack and I go, okay, where are the other people right in their situation? Where are they standing for, and what are they standing for?
Mm-hmm.
So, as an example, we look at religion. Religion, a lot of people have a lot of pain around religion. A lot of people have love around religion. Now, when you look at religious people, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. They want people to turn to God, to find something to make themselves better at the end of the day. That's the purpose, is what I see. How they do it can be a little bit difficult for people and be very painful for people. For others, it's really great for people. So who are we to say religion's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Who are we to say religion's right? And we've got to understand what, how and why people are doing things in the way that they do it, and everyone's individual in what they do.
Exactly.
And until we actually open our ears out and are willing to take a stand of understanding where the arrogance lies and where it's coming from, and the perception and all of these things that we can't see, hear and know because we're in pain, we will never see the magic that's actually sitting in an arrogant person's voice, because they've got something very, very special.
Mm-hmm.
They have power in their voice. And we all want to have that power to be heard and be listened to, and arrogant people get listened to.
Mm.
So we've got to take that part on for people who don't have that strength and power, to be able to take that strength of authority without being authoritarian about it. Authority's great. Authoritarians, torture.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's arrogance, authoritarian. Authority is amazing because you feel confident and you're more able, and that's the gift that arrogance brings. I look at people, I go, wow, I wish I could be more like that in my nature, because I'm not, I stand for this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I love seeing people, how they stand for things and they really value what they believe in, and it's true for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need to learn with arrogant people, to be able to stand up for what we believe in while we're listening to what other people believe in as well, and seeing the picture. It's not about sitting on the fence, it's understanding what everyone does and how they do what they do, so then we can actually have a broader range of understanding around who, what and how life is meant to be lived. Mm-hmm. And for us individually, how we choose to live it. The worst thing that we can do is hang around a whole bunch of people that believe in us 100%.
Mm.
Where's the growth in that?
Yeah.
That's sheer arrogance.
Mm-hmm.
As well. Trying to find your tribe, find people with differences and learn from them, because you're going to grow more than that. It's about discussion being nice, and that's what we've got to learn with the energy of arrogance and what to do with it.
And I think that religion was like a really interesting example in that regard as well. And like, if people could just listen to all the different perspectives on religion, you know, and like just accept, like, I guess if you just listen to the other person and just take on what they say, you're automatically accepting them, which is a big part of religion anyway, usually. And it would lead to much more peace, you know. I think of how arrogant, you know, we've been in the past and been like, this is the only way, you can only believe this thing, and if you don't, we have to kill you. That's just like, doesn't really make sense, because everyone's different and everyone has their own beliefs and cultures. And
exactly. And until we actually break the arrogance button in all of us, we're never going to get acceptance, understanding, which actually creates love.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to create division and pain and anger and hate.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to come down to actually breaking the arrogance barrier, knowing how to use it by setting boundaries, but pinning it back and saying, this is what I'm standing for and this is what I'm doing. I'm happy for you to do what you do too.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we're not killing each other.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's really, really interesting. And so you said ultimately a lot of the time arrogance comes from low self-esteem as well.
Yeah.
And how would you manage that?
Well, arrogant people don't believe they have low self-esteem.
Oh, okay.
Right? So they're in pretty good shape. It's what the receiver has to deal with, because quite often the receiver has low self-esteem and they're controlled by the anger. The arrogance. So it's actually when someone realises that they're doing it and the bubble bursts, then they have a bit of a meltdown. And this quite often happens when, let's say, someone close to them dies, or something major, huge catastrophe happens in an arrogant person's life, and then they have to go, shit, I've lost everything, and I have to go and pin back and find out what I'm here for. And there's a bit of a window with major catastrophes that allows the arrogant person to break the barrier and go, you know what, I need help. Usually they don't ask for help. They're not going to go and see a therapist. They're not willing to go and get support because they know it all.
Exactly.
So it's a challenge. It has to come down from a cataclysmic type experience that is going to help break them to get support and the help that they need. If you're on the receiving end of that, you've got to build your own self-esteem and stand up to the arrogant person. So then you've got your boundaries, and they're great for standing up and being strong with what you believe in your own way, and not having to be controlled.
Okay, that sounds really good. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I think that's pretty good. So guys, if you like this podcast and you really want to know about what we do, we have an academy called the Wellness Breakthrough Academy. Our podcast here is Wellness Breakthrough Academy podcast.com, and I'd love it if you could like and share this, because I think this is really, really important. Not one of the people listening to this has to have some form of arrogance inside of you. So don't think you don't have it. We all do. We just got to learn how to work with it well. So thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.
And thanks, Philia.